Mark from the States, Mark from the States, it's Mark from the United States.
Good morning, good afternoon. Oh, don't start yet. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Mark from the States. How are we doing today? I'm doing fantastic. Today, come sit with me on this big fake couch. Thank you for coming. I appreciate all of you. Today we're going to visit with the History Lord. And he does a series of videos where he explains where certain phrases that I even use here over in my small little corner of the world, where they originated from. These are always very enjoyable. I love his channel. Please go support History Lord. Description will have today's video and his channel, of course. So please go over there and give a like, do whatever you need to do to help him out. It is the History Lord channel, and it's really good. And a lot of his videos are real quick, so they're really easy to get through, and they're just wonderful. You can certainly spend a while just going through a ton of his stuff. And so if you're interested, please, I encourage you to get over there and support him. But today we're going to learn about a few of these sayings that have been around forever. I love hearing of these things because you're like, oh my God, yeah, I totally still use that today, but have zero, and I mean zero idea where they originated from or why we even say them to begin with. So, big fake couch, come sit with me. It shouldn't be a long video. It should be pretty quick. So let's take a look and see what these things all mean. Let's do it.
Welcome to the History Lord. You join us here today, and once again we're in my house in lovely Warwickshire, and today we're doing another of our little series about the origins of phrases. So here are just a few of them. Getting the sack or getting fired. Now, this one is used all over the world. If you get the sack or you're fired, it means you're no longer employed in that particular job.
Now, we don't tend to say you're getting sacked. That's not really an American phrase. You hear it every once in a while, but you generally will hear it, you being other Americans, will generally hear it on some sort of British show. If you're watching television and it's British TV, or a British person will be in your midst and talk about being let go at work. We will say you're fired, and we'll use you're fired. I didn't know it sounds like they're going to be either meaning two different things. We're going to find out, but I'm getting fired or getting let go is what we would say. Generally, getting sacked, most people probably wouldn't even know what that meant, but if you are a frequent viewer of British TV like I am, you will be familiar with that term, that phrase.
Goes back to the days, again, the medieval days, when tradesmen and craftsmen and labourers would walk around and be more transient. They'd go around job to job. So some jobs lasted a few days, some lasted a few years, but they would carry the tools of their trade in a sack. They'd give the sack to their new employer, who would look after it for safekeeping. At the end of that employment, or the end of that contract, the sack would be returned to them. That job has ended, they were given the sack. Now, on a more serious note, to get fired, oh dear, that really was bad. If you had disobeyed your employer, or even worse, you'd stolen something from your employer, or worse still, you'd assaulted an employer, you'd be fired. Your tools of your trade, if they were wood,
Would they burn
would be
them?
burned.
Oh my gosh.
If they were metal, they'd be smelted down. And this was to stop you going to any other employer in the area and doing your unscrupulous business with them. So therefore, getting the sack wasn't as bad as getting fired. So now you know. Rule.
That is crazy. But yeah, that's why I love this video already. This is so not the same thing. It's funny how nowadays it's kind of all the same thing. Obviously, you're not burning people's stuff, But yeah. Oh wow. That is wild. All right. Rule of thumb. Now here's one that I do use. I have no idea. I understand it's something to do with your thumb in the size of your thumb. But I've been known to use this phrase for many things. I probably use it wrong, but who knows?
Rule of thumb. Now, rule of thumb is something that's generally accepted as an approximation. So, oh yes, that's how it's done. It's usually done this way, the rule of thumb. Now, there's a couple of theories behind this.
Yeah, that's how I know it is.
The first one is goes back to an old common law that you could beat your wife with a stick that was no thicker than a husband's thumb, a man's thumb. Well, that hasn't been done for centuries, thankfully, the beating of your wife.
Thank God.
But in America, believe it or not, rule of thumb does go. Now, I've got my notes down here, and I've got them because I've got some facts from America. Some people think it originates in the UK, the rule of thumb. The only evidence I can actually find dates back to 1824 in Mississippi, and then again in 1868 in North Carolina.
Oh, shoot.
And that was a man was allowed to beat his wife with a rod or a stick no thicker than a man's thumb, and in one case, no thicker than the judge's thumb.
I think
Now,
I've
wife
heard
beating
this
has been
before,
illegal in
though.
both the UK and the USA for several centuries. But some
Thank goodness.
cousins in the US, some of the judges in the US, interpreted the old law of moderate correction a little differently.
Moderate correction.
Yes, not the nicest thing in the world. Second version of this phrase comes from lots of trade. So back in the 15th, 16th century, it was established that the thickness of a man's thumb was on average about an inch. And so rule of thumb was a simple measurement of about an inch for the thickness of a man's thumb, especially in the cloth trade for some strange reason.
Huh.
But if we move forward to the Victorian times, to the banquets that were held at Buckingham Palace, rule of thumb is still used today in Buckingham Palace. The vast banquet table would be set up, and the same person would go along the table measuring where to put the plate and the knives and the forks with his thumb. So if you look down the table, it would all line up
Be the
perfectly.
same, yeah.
And that, in the royal household, is the rule of thumb.
Oh,
And
interesting.
That is still used today. And incidentally, it was Queen Victoria herself who decreed that most people, when they're sat at the dinner table, just need 18 inches to sit as width to sit at the table.
You couldn't do
So
that
can you
today.
imagine at the Buckingham Palace when there's a state banquet and there's 170 people sat round the table? That must be very cramped indeed. Would you like that? Not sure I would, actually.
People are bigger
A square meal.
nowadays.
So this one goes all the way back to the Royal Navy. Now, getting sustenance on board a ship wasn't the easiest thing in the world back in the 16th, 17th century. And so most of the time, the sailors, their breakfast and midday meal would be just bread and water. The evening meal was something a bit more substantial that usually consisted of some sort of meat and vegetables and yet more bread. It was all served on a pewter or metal square plate. And they would fill up their plate, take it back to their station or their quarters, and they would consume their meal. The plates were square and slightly deeper because they were easier to store and they could be stacked side by side and on top of each other.
Yeah.
And so in the Navy, it was called a square meal, and it means having a hearty dinner. Simple as that, really.
Yeah, pretty
So there you
simple.
have it. Just a few origins of phrases and where they came from. Thanks for watching. We do hope you enjoy these videos.
Quick,
And if you
quick
do,
video.
please subscribe and tell your friends. And if you want to see what we do outside these videos, then please have a look at my website, which is historylord.co.uk.
Please
or
go.
have a look at Last Line Films. And that's James's YouTube and TikTok channel and also his wonderful website. He's sat behind the camera. playing with his phone at the moment, but there you
I'm
go.
noting things down for a future video. Thank you very much.
He always says that, but there you go. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you very soon. Take care.
Yeah, the rule of thumb, it's kind of dark. The square meal I have heard before, that it was how it was presented or on a plate. And I knew it came from naval history, and I knew it came from British naval history. The fired and sacked did not know that. That is interesting. And again, the rule of thumb I don't even know if I feel right using it nowadays. Now, after learning that, I've heard of the whole, that law that it was legal to do that, way back when, but never, I don't think I associated it with the actual, at least I don't remember if I did, but yeah, interesting. I love these videos. Real short, quick, fun. Please go support History Lord and his endeavor on his channel. Links will be there. It's important that you get over there. What also is important is that you're all happy, healthy, and safe. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out. We'll see you in the next one. All right, take care, everyone. Bye.
Mark from the States, Mark from the States, it's Mark. And he's from